Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another What Else is Going On, aka We Go podcast episode. I am truly excited. For those of you that have been with me since the beginning, of the What Else is Going On podcast, you know that throughout this journey, I have met many different people and I've made some really good friendships that doesn't even seem like we've only known each other for 5 years. It seems like we've known each other for forever. And the person that I have on today is one of them. I love her. I feel like I can say we don't necessarily fight like sisters because we are actually a lot alike. So she kind of knows what I'm thinking, or when I'm annoyed, I know when she's annoyed with me. So I love her so much. She is smart, so smart, funny. I have truly, all jokes aside, learned a lot from her. She is I won't say my therapist, but if I'm having a mental health moment, I can text her and she's jumps right in. I probably don't tell her enough, but I truly appreciate her thoughts and her feelings. Even if we don't agree, it's always truly another perspective given to me. She also makes such funny memes. For those of you that do not know who this is Oh No Chels. Hi, Chelsea.
Hi, that was so sweet. Thank you, Taria.
No, I truly mean it. We've been rocking for 5 years.
I know. And we have transcended. We're like real friends now where we do
Yes.
get annoyed with each other every once in a while. And I gave you the disclaimer going into this episode. I was like, you are going to leave here and drive right to my house and threaten to drag me, Monique, because it's been a minute since I've been on your show. I know that your listeners are used to your Aries energy. You are somebody who is going to pull out the facts. You're going to pull out the figures. You're going to be like, and then in scene 2 of season 6, this person said this. I want to just say a disclaimer for your listeners. If this is your first time experiencing Bravo through my lens, I'm a Gemini. I go off of vibes. I go off of chaos. All of my opinions are famously terrible,
Oh,
but
God.
I love this show. I'm loving Salt Lake City.
Wait, that is so funny because out of all the years of our friendship, you say, my picks are famously horrible, but I don't think I've ever heard you say I'm a Gemini, and it literally just clicked for me.
Yeah, I'm batshit. Oh, can I curse on here? I
You
know
can
you're
do
on
whatever you
the
can do whatever
YouTube
you
now.
want.
Okay.
Whatever you
All
want.
right. Well,
No,
don't say that, Taria, but
I dare you to
don't
do
give me
something.
permission.
I was gonna say do something.
Like, woo! Girls Gone Wild.
Down in the DMV. Y'all, we are the M in the DMV. So we are the DMV dolls. We're just missing one of our bambinas, one of our dolls. Shout out to Amanda. So Chelsea is here to discuss Salt Lake. So y'all, I told Chelsea that I should have Corey edit the episode with the fight music. Because I already know who she loves. Who she loves, she knows I cannot stand. However, because I have grown as a person, in the words of my candy gal, I have growth. I can see certain points that her fave makes, maybe 0.05 points.
I will take it. I will take it. I love that, to quote her.
So y'all know who her fave is. Again, y'all, please make sure y'all go check out Oh No Chels. I think those of you that listen to the podcast, I'm pretty sure you know exactly who Chelsea is. Since I'm just starting with YouTube, you guys may not have met Chelsea yet. So we vacationed together, twice now?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know
Yep.
Corey? I think he felt like I felt. We went out to dinner 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he goes, which is weird because I knew where his brain was going. And he was like, how did you do that? I'm like, because I'm magic. He goes, I guess you guys, we were not even talking about the group. We weren't talking about the group chat. Out of the blue, he goes, I guess you guys, I was like, yeah, I know, not going on vacation this year. No one said anything. I guess we're skipping this year.
Sorry to tell you, Taria, we just didn't include you this year. We are. No, just kidding.
Good night.
Imagine that's how you found out.
On
Oh
the
my God, no.
I would leave it in and send everyone to all of your pages. I would call reality
So
Bontes.
all those wonderful 5-star reviews you've been leaving me, let's send the reverse energy to all of them. Yeah, I know. I had the same realization end of September because me and you, we all bring something to the group. So we are in a group of planners. Tom, Kix, Donnie, they're gonna have every meal. Amanda, they're gonna have every meal
Yes.
planned. They're gonna have our excursions planned. You and I, we're more of a like, hey, I'm gonna grab a Red Bull and a bag of chips on our way, and like we'll show up. And I'm like, wow, what a lovely place we're staying in. Yep. Oh, got my Red Bull here. But like, so it was like the
That's
end of
us.
for when I was like, oh, I guess that we didn't plan anything. And by we, I mean the people that plan things in the group
Right,
for this
right.
year.
It's like, so then I had which we could talk about. I meant to text you guys. I told Corey it would be genius if we did mini trips, like me, you, and Amanda go to New York, Kix and Tom and Donnie come here, and we go to
Yeah.
each other's houses. Because it is hard when your life is lifing.
Hmm.
It is hard or whatever, but we can do it like the Housewives where we all meet up and say we haven't seen each other since the Poconos, like they do with the reunion.
Yeah. Where they're always like, well, in New York, and it's like the reunion. We can break the fourth wall. It's like
Please
I
say.
haven't seen you since New York, and that didn't go very well. I'm like, oh, you mean when Andy Cohen specifically stirs shit up? It's hard to believe that things haven't settled down since then.
And didn't go well. Speaking of,
Mhm.
side note, are you watching New York?
I am in and out. This is the thing. We were talking before we started
Yeah.
recording where I was like, oh my God, it's been forever. And you were like, well, I'm blaming you. And I take full accountability for that because I just casually like kind of stopped watching Bravo for a little bit. But
I
I
get it.
am back into it now. I'm watching this. I still need to watch the first episode or two of Potomac.
The first is one. Yeah.
I'm going to be watching Potomac, but I'm at a place now where you asked if I was watching OC when we were texting,
Oh
and I was like,
yeah.
I'm at a place now where if it starts like making my spirit feel bad, if it
Yes.
makes like feel like I am more angry walking away from the show than I was sitting down to watch it, I'm like, I'm not going to watch it anymore.
Yep.
This is supposed to be for fun, and it's not feeling fun anymore.
Yeah. I think we've had those discussions before. I did that OC one season. I think it was I dipped out. Well, I was in with Noella a little bit that season. Then I dipped out. And then the season with Kay Dodd before that, I was like, I'm out of that too. So I get exactly what you're saying. Well, I already told Chelsea that she's going to come back and specifically talk Potomac because we're talking Salt Lake City today. But I will say this about Potomac. And then when you come back, you're going to have to tell me if you agree. This is all
Okay.
based off the first episode. No matter who we resonate with or don't, we say like and dislike, but we don't really know these people. But it was nice not watching with my butt clenched. It was
Mm,
nice knowing
to
that
be
there,
able to free the sphincter up a little bit.
yes, give it a little wiggle room.
Uh-huh.
It's nice knowing that because one thing I do love about these shows is that, like I mentioned earlier, we have conversations about mental health. I'm learning different things or what have you. But with these shows, they spark larger conversations, that lessons that we can take away in life. And I'm with Potomac. I don't feel like this is going to be a season of heavy conversation. And I didn't mind the heavy conversation before if we're all learning and talking and it's creating positive discourse. But
Right.
it feels like even if there's discourse, it's in a different direction. Like we're talking about Karen's DUI, and it really will. I hope that it makes people really pause and think before they get in their
Hmm.
cars, to take away from that. So, based
Yeah.
on the first episode, if it continues down that path, even if people say it's boring, because I'm like Kix, Kix, it doesn't like all that hollering, screaming, like all of that. And
Yeah.
that's how I feel too. A little bit of conflict, but so I didn't feel a heaviness knowing it was coming, like, oh God, like it was
Hmm.
just like, oh, I may watch, I may, whatever. So I think you'll get that from the first episode, but
Yeah.
I can't wait until you watch it. So you
Let
can
me
tell me what
ask
you think.
one thing before we go to Salt Lake
Okay.
City. Let me ask about Potomac because I did see a couple of people tweet like, wow, Giselle's back to season one. She's back to like her likable self. And I always, whenever I see something like that, I'm like, I'm gonna have to see for myself. But also, let me check in with Taria because you and I do not agree about most Housewives things,
Isn't
but we
that
are
funny?
pretty aligned with Potomac of our
Yeah.
favorites and not favorites. Do you feel like one episode in, obviously, like a
Yeah.
lot can change, but do you feel like she had a likable edit the first episode?
I'll say not even likable. I enjoyed her. I won't even
Okay.
say likable. I used to really love her and Robin. And around like that third season, it
Hmm.
kind of changed, which that's funny because I think that's the Candace season actually.
Yeah.
So and it had nothing to do with Candace because back then with their whole spat, I was not even trying to see Candace. It was like, okay, whatever, what have you. But
Hmm.
I liked the fun, shady. I'm not always bringing up rumors about people's like important things, Gizelle. And even
Yeah.
if that happened once, but it became a pattern. But I felt I enjoyed her. I'm not even
Okay.
going to say she's season one. I think every single Gizelle we've seen is Gizelle.
Right. It's
Like,
just a different side of it. Yeah. I think
yeah,
she went down the Lisa Rinna route for me,
yes,
where that felt, I was getting sick of her when it was like, okay, so you're constantly bringing other people's off camera stuff on camera, but you're not willing to show your own. Like
yeah,
that's where I know how you feel about Ashley Darby, but at least
yeah,
Darby will also, she's gonna be messy about other people, but she will allow a full storyline about
yeah.
Michael grabbing butts on camera.
That's
She'll let
true.
that happen. So, but with Gizelle, it got to a place where she was bringing everybody else's stuff. And then her storyline is like, oh, my daughter's learned how to drive. Oh, my daughter went off to college. And it's like you're
Yes,
fully making up a whole, allegedly, making up a whole relationship with your ex-husband while bringing up other people's stuff that could potentially ruin their families. And that's where I'm like, if you're going to
yes.
get your hands dirty, then you have to be able to receive people getting their hands dirty about you.
That's so true. And I didn't like what really turned me off last season was the non-engagement. So
Mhm.
you were talking about Wendy and Candace supposedly laughing when she was telling her story about her girls, when it was Robin and Nneka and all of them. And as soon as Wendy came over to engage her job, you turn your nose and you turn away. And it's like, no, like you don't get to do that. And I think people
Mhm.
should have stayed coming for you. Like, no, that's how you do us. So I noticed that it's funny. I wonder if she got the thought like, okay, the way I was the other seasons, because they also didn't know how this works. So we're saying season one, Gizelle, but
Right.
all housewives, when they watch housewives, think they could go in. Even viewers, oh, if I would go in, we all do that. But
Uh-huh.
unless you're in it, you don't know. And I think for as much as I will say one thing I can give Gizelle is she doesn't change who she is based on the read of the audience, like we've seen other housewives do. She just does not
That's
care.
true. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think, and let me ask you this before again, Salt Lake City, do you feel like, yes, she may have, she doesn't take a read of the audience, but maybe she's like, okay, I could do better. Or do you think that maybe a birdie, not saying that it was Andy Cohen, but someone in not even production, but the higher ups had a conversation with all, like a general conversation with all of them?
I don't know if there was a direct conversation, but I think that it's pretty clear like the writing is on the wall. Like we got a whole reboot of New York. Like times are a changing
Yeah.
and there's a reason why certain franchises continue to do well. I mean, we see New Jersey this last season. And you know, I don't mess with New Jersey because I'm
Yeah.
like, team everybody. I hope both teams have fun because I don't want to even say Teresa or Melissa, or else I'm going to have a pile of flaming shit at my doorstep any minute now.
Yes.
Like the fandom is crazy. But
Yes.
that is such like that is an institution. That was one of the like original franchises that had this intense fandom. And you see what starts to happen when people
Yes.
have played the game too long and they think that they're like above actually participating and they move into like the production side of things. So
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that this is kind of a new era where people realize like, okay, we are going to self-produce to an extent because that's what
Yeah.
makes us good at our jobs, but we're not going to allow what we think the story should be to get in the way of what the story actually becomes, you know?
Right, right. And with some of Giselle's conversations, that when you'll see what she had with Ashley, it almost did feel like, okay, we're in a group. Some may be closer than others. Girl, one of the group members is going through something. So we're having a conversation about it, even though they're introducing it on purpose. Like
Hmm.
Ashley brings up, so this is the second occurrence or second, like, so it's like, okay, we know she wanted to introduce that, but it still felt like this is something they may would say outside of cameras.
Right.
Even though I hate, I always say I hate being able to see my housewives physically punch a card like Gizelle, like, okay, I know she's coming to work to start mess. First is just being there and allowing the mess to happen and
Right.
bringing it up. So I'm excited for you to see.
Okay.
Episode one. I have I'm not even getting I can't wait because I have questions for you about certain uh I'm gonna be texting you. You'll see.
Okay, okay. I'll
I
let you know
promise.
when I'm watching it and I'll live update you. I'll send you voice notes and that'll be our little podcast.
Y'all, yeah, oh my God. We like and we'll get on our kicks where like it'll be a day where we may have like 1900 voice notes or whatever. One thing I love about my friends is that I use speak to text a lot. And I have said Siri's racist because she always changes what I say. She knows my voice, it's a black job. No, I'm just joking. But y'all know what I'm like if I'm
hmm
sending like text or whatever. So I'm excited. But Salt Lake City.
I'm so sorry. We
No,
both moved to
go.
Salt Lake City. Sorry, people. The YouTube
No.
people are like, okay, let's keep it moving. But I do like when you have been sending voice notes, but also voice to text, and you'll confuse yourself. So you send a voice note where you're like, I really disagree with what she's doing on camera, period. And it's like your voice saying that. And I'm like, oh, Taria got her wires crossed there.
I knew you were going to say that because I go back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, the day they let you speak an emoji, y'all are done. I'm just speaking all emojis, winky face, heart face, punch symbol, like all of that stuff. But Salt Lake, we're in episode, is this 5 or 6 or 7?
I think 5 or 6.
Okay, so we're
Yeah.
in. We're pretty much in. It's not the first episode. It's not even the second. I feel like we can kind of see how the season may go just a little bit. So overall, how are you feeling about Salt Lake City?
Well, I'm happy that Meli or Maylee, I'm happy she got her first speaking line this episode. We're 5 or 6 episodes in, and poor Meli, all we know is that she says slay a lot and that she used to be a figure skater. I'm like, this poor woman probably told all of her friends, all of her family, I'm going to be on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And then it's like, whoop, she passes in the background. It's like, well, there goes Maylee.
I had last week, I had shout out to Color Me Pink YouTube, Keisha Irvin on podcast. And when I tell you I screamed because she said, we were talking about that. And you can tell Maylee doesn't know what she's doing because in the suite for the Bucks game last week, you literally are the center now. You go up to Lisa and ask her. And then Keisha goes, all of a sudden you're like, where'd she go? Because the argument became about somebody else. Like that girl, that was your moment. Handed to you. Bronwyn actually handed it to you when they show the flashback of her confronting you. It's like, girl, where did you go? I think she tried to kind of have one this week when she decided to go with Lisa and not her friend, the host
A
of the trip. I
hundred
was floored.
percent. She was like, okay, wait, so there's going to be three of us curling versus me trying to like, she's like doing that thing where if you're going into double dutch, you're like, okay, I'm going to go. And it's like, but they've just been going and she's still on the outline, on the outside, like practicing, like, okay, any minute now, here I go. Like, oh, poor Maylee. But I am loving this season. I think the
Me
thing about
too.
this franchise is the women absolutely do not understand the assignment. And that's the beauty of it. In their mind, they are self-producing queens. They are giving it to the people and they are giving it to the people, but in the exact opposite way that they think. Like this show is a comedy.
My friend always says, shout out to Carlos. He says this is like it's a parody of Housewives.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
I laughed. I started to text you today and I was like, I'm going to save it for the show. I was audibly laughing out loud watching the show.
And I think that that is the beauty of the women on this cast is I don't actually particularly like any of them as people, but they make me laugh so hard. And I think that that is the lens that I need to express. Like my Lisa Barlow love is not because I'm like, oh, Lisa Barlow, I want to be her best friend.
Right, right.
The cognitive dissonance between the version that Lisa thinks she is, like the version of herself that she believes herself to be, versus who she actually is so wildly different that it cracks me up because without fail, like she will be quite literally having a conversation with somebody about how she shouldn't interrupt so much. And she interrupts in that conversation to prove that she doesn't interrupt. I'm like, Lisa, you literally cannot get out of your own way if you
Yes.
tried. And I love that. Like, I love that. Like, I find her so wildly funny because she is just so wrong all the time.
And that is a good point about the interrupting. It's like, do you see, or her calling someone out for doing something only for her to literally do the exact same thing.
Mhm.
And you're like, do you realize what you're seeing? I was going to pull up mine. I took some notes to see so we could go through the episode. And then if something jumps out,
Yeah.
Chelsea is a podcast, like she's professional with this. By the way, if y'all are new to Chelsea watching on YouTube, she's worn a disguise for years. So that's why you see the glasses.
Yeah. No, I'm not just wearing sunglasses inside for this is part of my persona at this
Yes,
point.
yes, that's what it is. It's her persona because it used to be, in case you're like, oh, it's Oh No Bravo, but now it's Oh No Chels because she talks about everything. And she has a podcast with her other friend Donnie. I'm the cute one, so make sure you guys check that out if you're into nostalgia, all the good things. I'm going to be a guest on there. I was going to throw shade and say when they invite me, they have. I just haven't picked my movie. Okay, moving on.
Well, also on Fridays we do our TGIF pop culture roundup now. So maybe we can have you on for that because we just do headlines of the week.
Oh, that would be so
Yeah, we'll
cool.
have you on
Okay.
for that.
Because I could not even blame you because, like, Lisa, I'm going to take accountability of not picking the movie. Although I could pick the Five Heartbeats and y'all, the Five Heartbeats is my favorite movie of all time. Stay tuned for that.
Okay.
Okay. So the episode opens up with Heather and Whitney doing Laverne and Shirley, and then they show all the ladies in the beer factory and then some curling. I thought it was a really cute intro. Let me ask you, I was going to wait until we got to that part, but the Heather and Whitney of it all, what are your
Mhm.
thoughts?
I kind of like, well, so they both are my bugaboos of this season.
Okay.
They both drive me bonkers for different reasons. I kind of love the frenemy ship because they're kind of taking each other down from within while
Yeah.
simultaneously like pretending that they are Laverne and Shirley, quite literally. So I don't actually mind the tension that's building between the two of them because they're trying to present a united front while simultaneously like stabbing each other in the back.
Yes.
And I kind of love that that's also what's happening with Lisa and Meredith. It feels like a real callback to
Oh,
season one, where we've kind of formed these very tenuous, like band-aid rivalry, like
yes.
teams that
Yeah.
were the original teams that came about, but there's been so much damage to each set that I love that
Yes.
they are, in theory, presenting a united front against each other. But it's like we are just two sentences away at any moment from it completely crumbling, you
That
know?
is a good point, taking each other down from the inside. Because when Heather was talking to Meredith last week, and then they showed the flashback, but about Whitney's jewelry situation, and Heather goes,
Alibaba.
Ollie, I was like, wake up. Like, I want to see her on a random Tuesday. Is this what we're going to get? Or is this filming Meredith with the aid of something? Um, so when Heather referenced that, I noticed she said, basically, so would you tell her to be a support to her? And it's like, oh, I see what you're doing. You don't
Mhm.
care if she's a support to her. We're gonna get this out. I'm gonna say that you should be supportive, but we're also getting the information out and
Mhm.
getting Meredith to talk about it.
It's really interesting because all of Heather's issues with Bronwyn is exactly what she does. She's like, Bronwyn talks, she changes depending on what group she's talking to, and that she's spreading these rumors around. And I'm like, Heather, you have been doing it poorly for 4 or 5 seasons now. Like, she's doing, you're accusing her of exactly what you are doing right now to Whitney because Meredith only said Alibaba like
Yeah.
once. And now this is your third conversation about
And
this.
that's what I was, because Whitney jumping forward, when Whitney approaches them, she's like, you're all talking about it. And I kept thinking, okay, maybe we're going to see these conversations in flashbacks
Right.
because it was brought up one time.
Right. Yeah, she's like,
Okay.
you're all talking about it. And even Meredith's reaction, she's like, you're making this a bigger thing than it was. Like, I think that Meredith was just using that as like a throwaway example of like the
Yeah.
ways that Whitney didn't come to her for help with whatever, and that she's now branding in bath and I don't know, bath bombs, bath bombs. Ah. Like, I can't even understand the woman half the time. I'm like,
Yes.
we're just fully having marbles in our mouth. But it is Heather who has now taken that little comment and ran with it.
Yeah, 'cause I was really confused. I kept saying, "Did I miss something?" Or are we going to see these flashbacks? And that's another thing with these housewives. It's the game of telephone where it gets so blown up. Like you guys are talking, like you're talking to everyone. It's like, no, I had one conversation.
Hmm.
That was it. I think it's funny when so after they open up, they're showing some of the ladies in their rooms. You hear snoring, and then Maylee goes into Whitney's room to have a moment. She starts jumping on the bed with this face mask on. And she's like, "You got to get up. We got to start getting ready." And Whitney talks about her caffeine mask. I only mention that scene because I'm like, oh, she's trying. Mm-mm. I mean, you're pretty. I have
Bless her
nothing else.
heart.
I bless you. When Mary
Mhm.
said it's so inappropriate. I'm like, when Mary said about that lady a couple weeks ago, I thought she was thinner than that. I said, but it was funny. And as you have said, if you're going to be mean, at least be funny.
If you're gonna be mean, at least be funny. And if you can't, yeah, if you can't say it nice, at least say it funny. And the thing
Yeah,
about
that's what it is.
Mary
That's what you
is
say,
that
not mean.
she is so mean and so funny. And she's a delight. I know just like Lisa Barlow, I have my blinders on. I'm not looking at
I love Mary.
any donations. I'm not looking at any affiliations. I'm not looking at her son currently colonizing Colombia. I've got my blinders on. Same for Mary. I am enjoying the version of
They're not
Mary that is
colonizing Colombia, Lisa. It
drinking
hit
his
me.
coffee and doing the four-star resort treatment, whatever, however Lisa's pitching that horrific missions trip. But the same I feel about Mary. I've got my blinders on. I am watching the version of Mary that Bravo is presenting me with, and I am eating it up with a spoon because she is simultaneously like the voice of reason and sometimes having no reason at all. And I love that you never know which version of her
Yes.
you're going to get.
Yes. And the voice of reason, her is the more confident one. Although I do feel like she's finding her footing. I think she has such a distrust, or
Hmm.
maybe not even a distrust, but a social awkwardness because she was probably sheltered. She was probably, but then you hear about some of her past, like with her first marriage, but that doesn't mean that she wasn't sheltered. And then now you're put in this position as this pastor's wife and you have to be this way. And it's like, you are awkward. And I think she's slowly but surely letting her guard. Like sometimes the biggest, I don't know, like a person who gets offended by everything is offensive times. And that was Mary. Mary would get offended by everything, which would then cause her to be offensive to people.
Yeah. And I think too, you are starting to see her trust the women in doses. Like I
Yeah.
love the fact that Angie telling her she had lipstick on her teeth, that was like do just pass go, green light, we're best friends now. She was like, "Thank you, Angie." But you even see it with Whitney a little bit, and part of it is because because Mary now has her sights on the new bobblehead in town. But part of it I think
Ooh.
is like Whitney extended that olive branch by being self-deprecating and by talking
Yeah.
about the bobblehead museum. And I think that Mary is appreciative when she can tell that you've been thoughtful enough to think of a joke that you could kind of like extend that arm and be like, "Okay,
Yeah.
Mary, we're okay
Yeah.
now."
And I do think I've said it before. I know everyone may not agree, but I have said with Whitney, that Whitney and Heather, and I keep saying this, Whitney, Heather, Lisa, Jen, for the most part, none of the cast I really care for
Yeah.
throughout all the seasons. You know that. And
Uh-huh.
Salt Lake just wasn't but I watched it. But I keep saying, I do feel like there's a part of Mary that conversation that they had last year when Whitney looked visibly shocked at the thought, like when she brought up racism and,
Hmm.
and Whitney was like, wait, you think I truly like, do you really think that of me? I felt like Whitney, for as much as I do not give Whitney a lot, I truly felt like in that moment, she was like, oh my God. Now people can speculate it was for the camp. Like she does, you know how some people don't care about being racist, they care about being perceived as such. I
Uh-huh.
truly felt like that was a moment where Whitney was like, oh my God, like you actually think that of me. And I think Mary saw that reaction and was like, oh, maybe this
Hmm.
isn't what I thought it was going to be. Because we got to remember Whitney's association with Jenny and all of that stuff, and Whitney's statement about taking the picture with Jenny. Yeah, it could come off like, well, yeah, you kind of, whatever. But so I think that with Whitney in her relationship, she's kind of like, oh, okay, it may not be what I
Right.
thought it was.
Or at least it was a vulnerable enough moment that it gave an opening of like, okay, this is
Yeah.
somebody that if she were to do something that offends me or that isn't okay, I may be able to approach her about it and it actually
Right.
be received. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it was
Yeah.
maybe a moment enough of like a, wait, you really think this about me? Tell me more, rather than like a
Yes.
shutting down, like tearful, how dare you response,
Right.
you
You know
know?
what? Yeah, that's true. It was a more of a tell me more versus a shutting it. Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm glad to see it. And we'll get to a part I thought was little, but was really cute, a moment they had. So then we see Lisa in with her glam squad talking about the Bucks game the night before. Bronwyn calls her husband, um, tells him about the drama. She was really upset. She barely watched the game. Overall, I know we're only five to seven episodes in. What do you think about Bronwyn? And do you feel like she's authentic, or she's just a very good newbie at playing?
I don't know. I am so torn, and I
Me
think it's a
too.
good thing. I can't really get a read on her. And that to me is refreshing because I feel like by this point in the season, I can usually kind of like put the newbie in whatever like archetype I've
Yeah.
assigned them of like what role they're going to fit in. And I can't really get a read on her. Sometimes she gives me like Crystal energy where she's very confident in who she is.
Yes.
She's gonna go if somebody's gonna go toe to toe with her, she's gonna give her authentic opinions back. Sometimes she gives me like Heather Dubrow energy. I
Yes.
can't really like I can't quite place her, but I do love that she is getting under Heather's skin. So I can't
Ooh.
claim to stan her, but I do appreciate that Heather is unraveling by Bronwyn's steady energy.
Yes, that's her. And it's very, because when she was confronting them, there was no yelling. It was just like
Uh-huh.
and with Bronwyn too, like you said, she kind of has me going back and forth, because you can state the facts of something two different ways. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like with her, and they're talking about the Whitney thing. Yeah, you did make fun of Whitney about her moment, but you called it iconic. Whereas with Heather, and you made fun of her, and it was a different type of energy. But yes, you did say what you said. So it's kind of like,
Yeah. But I love that in her argument, it made complete sense for her to be like, why am I the one under
yes,
fire when my only interaction with this woman was that dinner where she behaved kind of like a crazy person,
yeah, yeah,
whereas you are claiming to be legitimate
that
friends
was
with her.
good.
You have a history and you're talking smack too, because this is the thing I cannot stand. And this has happened to me in my real life where somebody approaches me with information of somebody talking badly about me. And I know it's only because they have since had a falling out with that person.
Yes.
And I'm like, you telling me this is just hurting my feelings. And
Yeah.
now I also know that you were also talking shit about me because the only reason you're coming to me is you're trying to get like ahead of this story.
Yep.
And like, how long did that conversation have to go to get those specific details? You know what I mean? It's not a difference
Right.
like, hey, actually, she's my friend. I'm not going to talk about her. Like, I understood Bronwyn being like, I thought we were getting Wendy's and drinking our Diet Cokes and talking shit as we
Yes.
do on this show, but instead, all of a sudden, I'm getting thrown under the bus. Like, I'm bringing you with me.
Right. And all of you. I'm glad that she wasn't afraid to bring Lisa with her too.
Hmm.
She was like, mm, mm, mm. Yeah, that was crazy. Okay, so I feel the same about Bronwyn.
Yeah.
In her confessional, I love how she says, "I never fought with Lisa." Like there's translation. Y'all weren't really friends. I mean, y'all were friendly. You were in the same
Hmm.
whatever. But and I like how she said, she started out with Heather on the wrong foot, but she hopes they move forward and have fun together. This is the part when Whitney walked in and Mary had a straightening comb.
Hmm.
I have debated on getting a straightening comb. For all y'all listening and watching, y'all black girls who use one, let me know if the straightening comb does just as good, because I have one that I put on the stove. So I walk it it's upstairs. I walk it downstairs, put it on the stove when I have to get my edges and my kitchen. So the back of y'all know what the kitchen is. So I thought it was so cute when she was like, what is that tool? It almost, honestly, I was like, if we were going on vacation this year, that would be a scene you and I would react, and it would be so funny because I could literally see you being like, I mean, I know you know what it is, but I could see you being, what is that tool? And I'm like, girl, for black
Well,
girls.
and I know what things are because I've had those conversations where
Yes.
I've been like, what's happening here?
Yeah,
Tell me more about this.
yes, yes. But I
Like
literally
you
saw,
saying like my kitchen. I'm like, oh, that was 3 years ago, you and I was like, and sorry, explain more about this.
yeah. How many square foot is this kitchen, so to speak? So yeah,
Yeah.
I in that moment, I was like, especially knowing we are going to talk about it, I was like, me and Chelsea would have definitely have reenacted that scene. Like we could do that because that was, and it's just a moment that it's, and I think it's little moments like that that
Mhm.
can, because she didn't know what it was. Why would she know what it is? You know what I mean? Like she know
Yeah.
what it
And
is.
Mary is now trusting enough, or at least enough to the extent of like not taking it,
Getting offended.
getting offended because it like depending on the motive of the question or your relationship to that person, it's a much different thing of like me asking you that when we're on vacation together than like somebody you've been fighting with and them coming in and being like, what is it? Like it just is a different energy. So I feel
Yeah.
like the fact that Mary was like, oh, it's for black girls, like, and they just like kept moving, but it was like there was a casualness to it that I was like, oh, are they becoming
That's
friends?
what same. Like, are they, because it was a shame that things went as far as they did because I mean they were friends before that. Remember, she took her dad to Mary's church, and
Oh
I met
yeah.
online, Mary was Whitney was responding to Mary like, thank you so much. I felt something at your church. Like this was all online. So it's like, and then we
Mhm.
have to go back to that famous scene of Mary going to bake cookies, and she talks about the person being ejected from the car, and Bobby's like, are they alive? She's like, no. Glad to be here.
You can't write like I feel like the best SNL writer couldn't write Mary Cosby.
No, at all. Well, side note, Karen from Potomac, and I have to get the name, said one of the new girls is a mixture of, ready for this? Mary Cosby and Katie Rost.
Oh,
I
oh
have to find the
no.
article and send it to you.
Oh
Yes.
no.
Yes. I was like, what are we going to be getting with that?
Yeah, I'm gonna be logging off and immediately pushing play on Potomac after that descriptor. One last thing about Mary, I believe that her dad smelled Jeffrey Dahmer's victims' remains because let's not forget, Mary Cosby also has pretty good senses. She knew that Jen smelled like hospital, and we know that's genetic. I believe that her dad was going to work and smelled something funky.
So this is funny because you were so on the path because I have that in my notes. Um, and I also wanted to talk about you and we get into our modes where we're on Reddit and we're sending each other stuff.
Uh-huh.
Well, I just saw yesterday or the day before a Redditor said Mary's not lying. I believe Mary about her father. She's not lying because now they went a little far, but God bless them for the information. They went
That's
and
how I feel about Reddit all the time.
yeah,
It's a
it's
little
like,
far, but God bless you for the
God
information. Thank
bless
you
you.
for doing that work.
Yes, doing the Lord's work because now we know. They got Mary's mom and dad's marriage certificate, got his name. I know, got his name, cross referenced it. Yes, he did live around the corner from Jeffrey. They had Jeffrey's address, her dad's address. Yeah.
I'm
So
telling you, Redditors could
run the
solve world
world.
hunger, run the world for good or for evil. They could channel
Yes.
that because the information, and I fancy myself an internet sleuth, but I could never. I am so impressed on a daily basis by what people can figure out.
Like, I would have never thought to do that. Like, wow, thanks for the information. I definitely believe that Mary, like you said, because of the note, because of her, you smell like hospital, all of
Hmm.
that stuff. So, and there were people commenting in that Reddit thread that if you go back to the time of the story, there were people that lived in that area saying they smelled something. Yeah.
Oh
That's
my.
so insane. Again, you could not write Mary Cosby or her life
No,
probably if you tried.
no.
Yeah.
But my God, I want a biopic
God
or
bless.
biopic.
I say both.
Biopic? I don't know.
I,
It's
because isn't it a biographical picture, which bio means yourself, about yourself, right? So wouldn't that like
Yeah, I think it's one of those things I just see written and then I just say it in my head. And so it isn't until I say it out loud that I'm like, I have no idea how to say this
Because I
word.
say both biopic and biopic too, because I feel like they both make sense.
Okay. Well, people on YouTube, do me a favor and comment how I'm supposed to say it so that I don't sound like an idiot in the future.
And say it nicely, y'all. Okay.
Please,
Now we're
please.
back to Whitney. This is funny. So Whitney lays out her plans for the day in her confessional, and she throws shade to Meredith's trip from last year. They weren't going to be thrown. I didn't know you were coming, Angie. The way she says Angie's name is so funny to me. This Angie. I didn't know you were coming. So Angie didn't have a shirt. Um, Here's where I was like, oh, they're getting ready to housewife. Meredith goes down to Lisa's room. And, Lisa asked her, how was the night? What did you think about last night? It was kind of confusing. And then she goes into the store, and watching Lisa have an internal meltdown was so funny. You could see it, like, especially, and I don't know why, but I also thought back to last year's trip when she was having a meltdown because they weren't supposed to wear makeup or the
True.
makeup. Remember
We
that?
are we are so weirdly aligned and synced up because I was gonna say all we needed was for her glam squad to get sent away and we would have had the full meltdown because you could see it bubbling up with her, but at least she had like bronzer and foundation to
Yeah.
push it back down. Like if she had been plain faced, it would have just come right out.
It would have exploded. Her kids would have been posers. So yeah, there was something about that scene that I love because once again, it's SNL, it's parody, it's housewife. I was getting excited of what was to come.
Yeah. And again, it's under the guise of, well, Meredith and Lisa they've vowed that they've come back and
I
they're
had
going to
that in my
have each
notes.
other's back. Like it's under the guise of like, well, we're this united front and we're going to protect each other, but by simultaneously just like stirring up the drama. And again, I think it's beautiful that we're getting it on both sides because the exact same thing is currently happening with Heather and Whitney as well, where it's like, well, I
Yes.
have to talk about this terrible rumor about you on camera because I want to protect you from this terrible rumor being talked about on camera.
Yes. Goes back to girls' trip with Candace and Gizelle, Heather and Whitney, and they're arguing. And Heather said, I mean, and Whitney says, we're making a show, honey. Because
Mm-hmm.
Heather was like, we're supposed to be cousins. You're throwing me under the bus. And she's like, we're making a show, honey. And it's like, oh yeah, it's kicked in. Okay. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's it's now they're thinking show. To me, I made a note like when Whitney confronts her about it later and she says, Lisa and I made a pact to be honest about anything that was going to tear us apart. That wouldn't because I would have just told her, girl, while they was trying to tell me X, or knowing my friend, I may not have. Who knows? I probably would haven't been like, I told her because she's my friend, not because I'm using it as this
Right.
could tear us apart. Like, girl, that
Mm-hmm.
that that flashback was something else though. I was like, oh, Whitney's being messy. The same healed Whitney. Oh, you are
Mm-hmm.
being messy. And Angie is making sure to get her screen time this year. She is interrupting. She's
Uh-huh.
circling the conversation back to her.
Mm-hmm. What do you feel about Angie?
I feel like
What are your feelings on Angie?
when it comes to Mary, I feel like she's sincere. I feel like she likes Mary. I feel like they have a good time. I do. There's something about Angie as a person that warms me to her, even though
Mm-hmm.
she irked my nerves last year. It was the little things like Mary sitting by herself last year. Come on, Mary, even though Mary freaked out. Who's
Mm-hmm.
Angie? But there's something about Angie that warms me to her, while at the same time, I feel like, and I don't know if this was because Jen Shaw kind of led us down that path of believing, but Angie really wanted to be on this show.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's coming out with the scroll and later on taking Whitney's conversation about Lisa and making that about herself. But I like it and I appreciate it. It's not turning me off from her for some reason. There's something about her that just feels that she's Greek. I don't know how I knew that. And that I like what she's doing, even though I know what she's doing. It's really weird because Whitney, I wouldn't
Yeah.
like it. I don't like it when Whitney does it.
I agree. I haven't been able to decide if I like her or not throughout the seasons. Like I have been slow to warm up to her. I am enjoying her more this season than I have in the
Yeah.
past. And I think it's the same type of thing. And I love a manifesting queen. I love that she was like, I want to be on the show. I'm on the show. And now I'm going to get the center snowflake. Thank you very much. But I do wonder if it's going to be a shooting star syndrome where this
I'm
is going to
scared.
be the season that she is crushing it and then she gets that overinflated ego and then next season she tries it again but the because I think she's almost catching the women by surprise this
Yes.
season. Like I think that Lisa was genuine. I don't think that Lisa was like, oh, our relationship has changed. Like I know she says that, but I don't think that's what she meant by Angie bringing the Whitney stuff. I think what she meant
Oh.
is like, oh, so you're here to play, you're going to be a housewife now. Not just like my side. You're
Oh.
not just like this other character that I film my side scenes with. You're like trying to get in the mix.
I didn't think about that. That is a good point. Something clicked in her
Like,
because
oh,
I truly felt in that moment, even when they showed the flashback of when I think about myself with friends, if we're friends, her having that conversation with Whitney, I didn't get that it was supposed to be messy. It was almost like Whitney saying, well, I believe I deserve an apology from Lisa. Well, Lisa thinks she deserves one too. And kind of in your mind thinking you could forge something like you could get Whitney to see Lisa's side of it as well. Cause you know you can't get Lisa to see
yeah.
Whitney's side of it. So I think she thought that's what she was doing and it did not work.
And I think that that's what she was trying to do. Like I think that maybe that's why I'm warming to her more is it seems genuine and authentic when she does get messy. And obviously they're making a show and she's
Yeah.
producing and all of that, but it feels like there's a genuine reason and it's not just her like barreling into a scene being like, you'll never believe what Lisa's mad about. Like it felt
Right.
like it really was like a hey, just a heads up, like you might need to have a conversation when you guys see each other because she's really upset about this podcast that you did.
Right. That's yeah, that's true. But there's that tugging like, oh, I see what she's doing,
Mhm.
but I like it like, and then it psychologically, it's like, well, why do I like it when she does it? But I cannot stand that other one. Like, although Whitney's rocking her body, Whitney's absolutely gorgeous to me,
Hmm.
and I'll give her a point for that. But because you know how I feel. I don't know what it is about her. There's something just so I'll never forget when we were talking about I think Jen's last season, all of us were on a group chat and we were talking about Whitney bringing up the whole blow job for jazz tickets. And it's all whenever I think of Whitney, it's always in my mind when Amanda was like, and I agreed, like, we know that she was wrong and out of her mind, but she looked so sexy in that as she's getting redder and redder, it's like
Uh-huh.
we're like, ah, like we're still like, hey girl, you got it going on. But yeah, that's funny. But
Hmm.
I always think about that with Whitney. So then this is funny. We see Whitney doing her job, going to all the rooms. She goes to Heather's room, and Heather's just so concerned about the Alibaba thing in her confessional, but they're so back to being Laverne and Shirley. That's actually the point that I mentally was going to ask you about Heather and Whitney, but I asked you at the top of the episode because it's like, do y'all even talk outside of filming now?
Hmm.
Like, I don't even get that y'all even talk about, and y'all are really pushing this Laverne and Shirley narrative. It's like y'all are
Right.
pushing a little, it doesn't seem natural.
It's like a couple's costume in Halloween. You know,
Yeah.
it's like you can dress up like Mickey and Minnie Mouse, and I still know that you are going to end the night fighting with each other in the streets and he's sleeping on the couch tonight. Like you can post that Instagram caption talking about my love, my best friend, and you know, all the attributes you admire about them. And I still know he cheated on you last Tuesday.
Yeah.
Like I just feel it's like a doth protest too much situation where it's like if
Yes.
you really were best friends, you wouldn't have to be like, we're the Bobbsey twins, we're the spiraling cousins, or whatever they're saying. It's
Right.
like, just show us. Like, just stop telling us, just show us.
And let us see it. And because we're going to see it fall apart. Because,
Hmm.
like you said, there's simultaneously literal stabs. I mean, you go back to the first episode when Heather was all in,
Right.
and I didn't care about them being like bringing up all the stuff that Whitney said, but it's like, girl, now don't try to act like you're so concerned. Like, it just
Right. It's
really,
like you were just saying all the same stuff. You're just mad that Bronwyn and Meredith are saying stuff now because you don't like them.
yes. Because even seasons back when I didn't necessarily care for Heather, that night that we just talked about with Whitney and the like the pajama thing and them all bringing that up too. I like that was to me an authentic argument that two cousins that are friends were having. Like
Hmm.
those moments were real, but now it's like this fake, like we have to make a show. Like they've gone in that way when I miss the
Right.
like when they would argue like for real and then make up or what have you. So it's like,
Hmm.
I don't know. But I thought that was funny. So then when she goes to Lisa's room, yeah, I'm not going. I was like, is she serious? And Whitney's like, but I appreciated Whitney being like, why?
Uh-huh. And this is worrying to me. Again, I'm loving the season. I think that this
Okay.
cast is magic, but I'm concerned about this thing that keeps happening because
Okay.
Meredith has been doing it too, of the like opting out of stuff. And
Mm,
I didn't get anything from that curling scene. Like,
not
I
a
didn't
thing.
get, like, it's one thing if you're Mary Cosby and you're going through a drive-through, show me that. I even
Okay.
appreciated Meredith opting out by saying that she had carpal tunnel from churning butter. That's funny. That's new.
Yeah.
That's fresh.
Yeah.
We haven't heard that one before. But I'm nervous when we get to this point where these women have been doing this for enough years that they start to think that they can pick and choose. And it's like, no, you
Mm,
need to show up. And obviously, we get the confrontation later on, but it's like, you don't get to just like do a whole nother side quest because you're mad about what was said about you. That's part of your job.
right. And that it's like, and you're getting a whole nother scene. Like camera now, production has to like split the. Well, I'm guessing unless they filmed it at different times, but like when she said that, and then so I loved when Whitney was like, "Well, why?" And she just, Whitney gets that look like I'm confused. She talks like she reads off of a teleprompter and her first time.
Hmm.
But then I agreed with Bronwyn later on in the van when Whitney's like, yeah, they're not coming, and then she finds out it's Melee and Britney, and Bronwyn was like, did she just walk out of her room like in the first two people she saw? And that's what I was thinking. Not Meredith. Since you told me what she said about me, we're a
Right.
team. You're my BFF. Because in real life, if that was you and I in a group of women somewhere,
Hmm.
and we're truly close, I'm not going with those other women. I would probably tell you, no,
Right.
you need to come. Like we all need to come. But
Right.
like for you to pick Brittany, who is Heather's friend, and Maylee, who is Whitney's friend,
Hmm.
I was like,
It was
okay.
very much season one, Stassi Schroeder in Vegas when she got mad at the main group and
Mm.
then she was like, call in Christina Kelly. I'm going to brunch with the B squad. Like, it was just like, what is happening here? That you're like, okay, so you two, the two people that are new and have had the least amount of screen time. Brittany, I'd love to hear about where you're at with your on again, off again Osmond person. And Maylee, who knows who you are? Come along. Like, it was
Yes.
just so weird.
And I wonder if at that point, did Lisa know they were friends of? Because I feel like if she knew, then maybe that wouldn't have been a thing. Like, I don't know why I feel like maybe she's not like that. I'm maybe projecting that or putting that on her. But I feel
Mhm.
like if she knew, I keep saying, I feel like I'm saying, I have to be like Whitney. I feel like
I fill my fillings.
my feelings. Don't weaponize the way I say feelings, guys. That's a trauma. But I do feel like she wouldn't have done that. And that scene was so what I love is when she goes, I'm here. Thanks for squeezing us in. Basically, she didn't want to be around her other friends. So he chimes right in like a housewife. What are they doing? And when he brings it up, like how it's a big thing, the look, and they're like, oh,
Oh, yeah. Which I loved that of like, oh yeah, now you're curling in like a basement of an ice rink. Congratulations, you played yourself. I would have preferred, speaking of a different Whitney, I know you watched The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. I
yes,
would have preferred they give her the Whitney treatment that we got on that show when Whitney stopped filming. Like, let's do a pregnancy announcement and a cake. Let's do a weird like I'm buying a farm scene. Like, I would have
yes,
almost appreciated if they had like punished Lisa for doing that and had
right.
everybody in the caves and told the two other girls like, no, you're not going with her, and then like have a cutaway of like everybody having fun in the cave. Lisa checking her Instagram. Everybody having fun in a cave. Lisa sending Tom Hamlet a fuck off text. I just like just showing like that she has now punished herself and is now just bored in
Right.
her hotel room.
And not getting rewarded with a separate scene.
Uh-huh.
Right. Oh, that would have been good. Because it was like, yeah, girl, we're laughing at you, like, because that was stupid to do.
Right.
I love them tasting the wine. And when he says to Mary, do you know what champagne is? And she's like, yeah. And then she liked the wine, and it's so funny
The
because
beer, the champagne of beer, a Miller High Life, Taria. Like, I love that Mary is like, I didn't know this highbrow beer that I could get for $1.75 anywhere in
um,
Baltimore.
a Miller, like my grandmom used to drink Miller's Light in the can, had to be can,
Uh-huh.
12 pack, 24 pack can. Back in the days when you would send your 12 or 13-year-old grandchild in to get cigarettes and beer, and no one carded you because that's not the world we lived in. And if I was good when we went into the liquor store, if I went with her, I could get a pickle out of the barrel because I'm 100. But I loved those pickles and the Wise potato chips, Wise chips with the L. But I love that she liked it and that they were all like, Mary, like, well, Heather was like, Mary, do you like it? And she's like, I liked it. Part of me was expecting her to burp with the trajectory she's been on. I was
Yes,
waiting.
Taria, once again, brain twins, because I was so worried. This woman clearly has a raging case of undiagnosed IBS. Every scene we have, oh, I can't eat that. It's going to sit in my stomach. Oh, I can't eat that. I'm going to be tooting all the way home. I'm like, you're feeding this woman beer and cheese? Mary's going to skyrocket herself to the moon with the first pass of gas. Like, my God, her tummy's never going to be the same. She's going to be with Jack in that hospital in
And
Colombia.
or is it the super sized tampons that have pushed it her digestion to a whole other place?
I would really love an anatomy scan of Miriam Cosby because I don't know if she has the same genetic
Vaginas are
makeup that we
different.
do.
I said the vaginas and holes truly are different because I could like without something there to like, you know, yeah, I won't go in too much, but you know what I'm saying? Like
Uh-huh.
without something there to kind of buffer it, like what's happening?
What's
Are
happening
you not
is,
screaming like when it's coming out? Like what? Yeah.
yeah,
God bless Mary.
what's happening would be the title of Mary's autobiography, I think.
End of this episode. So let me text myself right now because you just
Instead
named
of what else is going on, it's what's happening.
what's happening. Episode title. Oh, see, I love this episode title. Okay. Thank you, Chelsea. Boom. So we get
You came
that.
up with it.
And then let's see what else, because I was going to see, call back what else is going on. So I love, yeah, we talked about them being on the Sprinter van, blah, blah, blah. Oh, we learned that Maylee, this is funny. You know, I use voice to text. So my notes say we learn mainly because I couldn't think of her name last week. I called her Miel, which is a black hair care brand. I called her Milani, which is a black hair care brand. I can't remember her name. Maylee.
Maylee.
Yes. She was training for the Junior Olympics and she decided to walk away. Great. Britney shares with the ladies she's been ignoring Jared's text messages. Was he texting you though? Like, is this a lie?
I don't know. I don't know. And I'm still enjoying the chaos for now, but I'm gonna grow tired if this is all we're bringing. I do love the new tradition that at every group event, we are gonna get the ding, ding, ding with the relationship status update. I very much felt in my bones when Mary said, I'm just trying to figure out why do we care?
Yeah.
I was like, thank you, Mary. Somebody had to say it. But I think that on paper, everything about Britney screams that I should like her because I like the chaos, I like the mess, I like somebody who's delusional, self-aware, not self-aware. Like all of the things are there for my perfect housewife, which is just a hot mess. But I can't get past it if the only thing you're bringing to the table is that you're dating or maybe not dating or could be dating or broken up with the nephew of an Osmond.
The nephew. What did Lisa call him? Because I meant to go back. Not a knockoff Osmond, but she called him something that was actually funny. And I was like, yeah, yeah. And then they had, okay, are the Osmonds from Utah? Is that why they have a lane named after them?
I think they're like Mormon royalty. Like, I don't think they're being facetious when they're talking about what a big deal it is. To everybody else, I'm like, what? Like, okay. But I think
Okay.
to the Mormon community, the Osmonds really are somebody. It would be
Okay.
like if you were a Scientologist and you're dating the nephew of Tom Cruise.
Got okay, then that's a big deal. Okay.
Mhm.
Wow. Because I was like, because the way Heather lights up when she talks about him, I'm like, he's not
And once
even
again,
young.
Heather, who's like, the Mormon church is terrible. Oh, you're dating an Osmond, Mormon royalty. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, Heather.
Once, because that's where you want to be back there. Like,
Mhm.
yeah. So okay. When so she talks about that. We don't believe her. Although, wait, no, that comes later, so I'll go later. So
I do
uh
want to create an app. I'm so sorry. I do want to create
no,
an app that's just Lisa Barlow's voice breaking down a toxic text from your ex. Like where you put it into the simulator and then Lisa's like, "Oh girl, this is bad. This is not good. This is not an announcement. This is a Costco post. Please, no, that you should not respond to this. Oh, absolutely not. I don't love that."
that might actually help with the break because I think I would be cracking up. That might actually help with the breakup process.
Uh-huh.
If we had her narrating these, that would be funny. Girl, you deserve better than that. I mean, he's a knockoff Osmond. I can't remember exactly what she said, but it was so funny. I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, you're right, Lisa. Um, but then while we're at the beer place, the ladies go to see about the ghost, and that's when Heather decides to tell Whitney and says, don't say anything on the Sprinter. We know Whitney's going to say something like, and I will say in real life that would be hard for me too because it's like don't tell me that this person said
Right.
something and I can't say it, but I do want to know that they said something even though you don't want me to say. So it's like in real life it
Right.
would be kind of hard too. Like I want to know if they're in my face, like they're my friend, but Meredith has not portrayed that to you, Whitney. So she's not.
Right. That's the thing. It's not like Meredith is being two-faced about it. Like
Yeah,
it's very clear she does not like Whitney, and so this shouldn't come as a surprise that she's also talking badly about your business. And I'm sorry, like we've seen the She by Sheree
come
website, we've
on.
seen Sonia Morgan's toaster oven, we've seen Karen Huger's discovery phase. Why are we suddenly like, oh my gosh, my housewife's business? People are saying it might not be legitimate or functional or up to code. It's like, are
When
we
she
what?
said it's going to be I forget the proper terminology, but basically they get it from a third party vendor. I'm like, oh, so the third party buys from Alibaba and you buy from them or AliExpress. That is what it is. I'll
Mhm.
never forget Love and Hip Hop Atlanta. There is a character on there named Rashida, and she opened a clothing boutique. This was years ago. I still have it. As a matter of fact, I wore it during our cost. No, I did not. I wore it the year before when we were in the Poconos. But what's her name? Rashida had this cardigan, my sparkly one that has
Oh, I
all
love
the
that
colors,
one.
right?
Yeah.
I saw it on her website and I wanted it. And I was like, Corey, can you get that for me for my birthday? It was $120. Something about the name of the cardigan didn't strike me as she came up with that name.
Mm.
So I copied and pasted the name. Oh no, I didn't copy and paste it. I went to the website, got the name of it. She has since changed the way she does that. Went back to Google, typed in the name of the cardigan. The exact cardigan came up on AliExpress for $25. And that's where I got it from. So of course they all do that. They all
Yeah.
get from the so
Now that is lazy when you're not even changing the name so that the person can just one Google search away
and
go
then I
over
tried
there.
it like a little while, like sometime later, and I was like, oh, she's wised up.
You can reverse Google image it though.
That's yes, and put it in Google. But I was
Hmm.
shocked. He was getting ready to pay $120 for that cardigan. And we literally paid 25 plus the shipping. So it didn't even come to, it wasn't much over 30 something dollars.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So Whitney, we know like you're making it sound fancy, but you're just buying from the person who's buying from
Right.
that.
You actually are probably losing money because if you just went directly to AliExpress, then you wouldn't have to pay that third party person whatever cut they're getting to give you the distribution. But
Because the jewelry's the same. Let's be clear. I was trying to figure out who the social media account was.
Probably
I don't,
one of us.
I would,
Probably probably one of our friends or somebody that we DM with. Like probably someone on Reddit that after they got done looking at the deed of Mary Cosby's dad's house was like, let me do some other sleuthing today. 10 a.m. I've got a whole day in front of me.
you know what? You're exactly right. Yeah, because I was like, okay, they're not showing it. So it wasn't reality Von Teese for sure. Please don't say anything. Please don't say anything. Please. They get on the sprinter. They go back. She calls Melee. Now, I could not believe Melee didn't at least text Whitney and say, hey, I'm not coming.
Yeah. Which makes me feel like production probably said, hey, by
Yep.
the way, there's a scheduling change. And Maylee's new at this and was like, okay. Because
Yep.
she didn't even really have an answer when she was like, oh,
Yes.
well, I just went. And she's like, why? And she's like, oh, that's what we were doing now.
I would have loved for her to say, I don't know, the guy that was holding the camera came and told me that would, I think I would have lost it at that point, like fully broken the fourth wall. The guy holding the
Uh-huh.
camera told me to be here at this time.
I just showed up and the Sprinter van took me to curling instead of the caves. I don't know.
I didn't know where you guys were. So we get that they have to be ready by 5. They go back. The girls are getting ready. Here's where things get turned up. Oh, Whitney, she knows exactly. Like, I have to give her bravo,
Mhm.
the transition, bravo. When she gets in that van and Heather talks about how great the trip is, she says, yeah, it's been really great. Here, you guys are talking about my business. And Meredith with her head cocked to the side. And Meredith kind of comes out with it and is like, all I said was,
All I said was that you've been going to Alibaba.
it's not, you're making this more than what it is. So they kind of go back and forth. And just Angie managed to bring herself up in that again. I can't remember. Was that at the dinner? That part got kind of foggy to me. Oh, but Mary watching it, it was like, I love watching her and then talk
Mhm.
about it in the confessional, like blah, 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 blah,
I
blah,
would
blah.
love a people's couch of Mary watching Bravo shows and giving her commentary. I just love watching her watch the women of like, how did I end up here and what is happening here? Like, that's enough.
I would have loved watching her watch people at Kathy Hilton's Christmas party.
Uh-huh.
That would have been amazing. The fact that she invited Angie and the fact that Kathy invited her, I was like, yeah, Mary is liking this world. She just
Hmm.
doesn't know quite how to go about, but she's liking all of this. This is
I
like,
do think you're right. I think that she does have a bit of that like social anxiety thing. And I think because we saw her when she's on stage and she's preaching and that's a different skill set. And you and I talk about this. Like I am this behind a microphone and I can get up in front of like 500 people, no problem. Like public speaking is fine, but I am shy when I first meet people in real life and people don't expect that, especially if they've like seen this side of me. And it's a
mhm.
different sort of like vulnerability and intimacy where you do have to be putting yourself out there in a way
Yeah.
that isn't the same as just like delivering a sermon or like doing stand up or being funny on stage. It's like I do think that there is a bit of hesitancy with Mary
Yep.
where she's finally starting to like figure out where she fits in the landscape of housewives.
And this Bravo, what? Yeah, exactly. It's and the
Hmm.
attention that she's getting from that way. You know, the kids were in entertainment for a long time. You know that, and
Yeah.
Sky was is doesn't like all eyes on her even now. Like she's made it very clear. She told me and her dad a couple weeks ago, whoever she marries better not be calling the family, asking them all to show up to a public engagement. She don't want no public engagement. Take me to a cliff overlooking the mountains because she doesn't like attention. I'll never forget one daycare they went to, they took their food. They loved Chef Boyardee. She liked beefaroni and Corey liked ravioli, or she liked the spaghetti meatballs, one of them. He loved when I would warm it up and then put it in his thermos, it'd be warm. She wanted to do it too. After about the third day, she was like, I don't want it anymore because people are looking at me when I open my lunch. And I'm like, yeah, they want your lunch.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, but I don't want people looking at me. And she's still that way. But yet this
Yeah.
girl could go audition in front of casting directors with and walk.
Right.
She said, when I'm performing, people are supposed to look at me. That's normal. But in everyday life, I don't want attention like that on me. And I just thought that was so like, because I think people like us who
Mm-hmm.
put ourselves out there and da 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 da. But I also don't think they get that it can be draining. And I know even with friend groups, and I'm sure you experience it outside of our friend group with other friend groups, sometimes you're the friend that people expect to be on.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh, they're going
And
to
it's
come.
pressure. It's
Yes.
like, oh, so I'm the entertainment for the evening. It's like, well, I just had a terrible day, so can I have a martini and like
Yeah.
let you talk for a while?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so, or like the anxiety of it all, too, because you don't know how people are going to receive you. But people that are tuning into your podcast, your YouTube, directors watching you audition, they know this is what you're supposed to be doing
Yeah.
at this time. So, yeah,
Ronnie and I talk about it all the time on our show. I am the cute one. I'm always like, cuties, if you meet me in person, I'm just letting you know I'm going to be a weirdo. Like, I know that you have a perception of like this parasocial relationship of who you think I am. And I am this person. I'm not like putting on a facade. But
right.
again, I'm a Gemini. The duality there, like when you meet me in person, I'm going to be excited to meet you. And I'm also going to be incredibly awkward because you are a stranger. And I'm going to be like, okay, hi. No, yeah.
And that's true because I'm thinking back now to like our get-togethers. You can be kind of quiet in the cut, just kind of like you have a chill vibe. So like you're
But
kind of
that's like
chilling.
you are like so like we've met people who have listened to our show like out
Oh
in
yeah.
the wild and like you're so good but that's like I admire that about you that you are somebody that can like strike up a conversation and they leave like with a genuine connection from you and which then makes them be like, "Oh my God, I'm absolutely gonna listen to her show more because she's like an authentic person." And I just like shrink into myself and I'm like, "Okay, I'm just gonna be over here like, hi, thanks for listening. Bye."
I don't know. I have this thing where I feel like if I'm talking to you, I want you to feel like you're the most important person at that time
That's
because I can't
amazing.
stand
Yeah.
when I'm talking to somebody. And I used to get on my friend, put your phone down. So like I even do that with my kids now. I'll be like, wait, let me finish this text or now if
Yeah.
Corey's on his phone, I'll stop talking.
And
And
wait,
he's like,
see
I'm
how long it
listening.
is.
Yeah, I'm listening to you. Look at me.
Hmm. But
So
I think that's what makes you such a good interviewer. Because I always tell you, I think like you are magic when you interview people and you get questions, you get answers from people. They could be on a press tour and get the same question, but it's how you ask it that gets a completely
thank you,
different
Chelsea.
response. But I think that's because you do make people feel like they are being listened to and that they are the most important, like regardless if they're a celebrity or like a random person that you meet. And I think that that's like where the magic lies is because you're actually listening. And I think that that's unfortunately like so rare for somebody to be like, I don't know, it's a novel concept, but listening when someone speaks to them, you know?
When someone's because I'm interested in people. Like I always feel like this is why I like the Housewives sometimes, like Mary opening up a little bit, coming up soon,
Hmm.
like about Robert. We get an insight to who Mary is. Mary telling these stories, you start to uncover, oh, that may be why they react this way. And I always, and even if it's a person in real life you don't like, if you know their backstory, it's still like, oh, okay, I can see. So I find that people are layered and fascinating. And when you understand their
Yeah.
stories, you're like, oh, okay. And that to me, that's what makes the world go round. I know that sounds crazy, but I
No,
like
no, but I
human
think,
connection, but to a point, because there's also that side of me that can go, and my friends get on me all the time. Like we'll talk and group chats. It could be 2 days in a row. Then it could be you may not say anything this day or may not say anything this way. And my friends always be like, you still alive? Yeah. But if I feel like I know my place in your life, I don't need to talk. Like I don't need,
yeah.
and
Well,
sometimes
I
I
feel like
reserve
we
that
are
for
very
strangers.
much, yeah, I think very much you and I are the same, where like we can go a week or a couple weeks without talking, and then like we just jump right back in. And
Yeah.
there's
Cause I
not
know,
that like expectation of like, okay, we need to be texting all day, every day,
yes.
or else then I'm worried about like where I
Our
stand, you
friendship, that
know?
is too much. That is like, I don't even work that hard in my marriage. Like,
Right.
like not
Uh-huh.
so to work that hard on a friendship is like, it's exhausting. And I know people like that. And it's like, but now I know they're past whatever. Cool. I'm going to handle you like that. But this is me.
Yeah.
Either you're going to accept it or you're not. And these ladies are certainly not accepting. Well, Whitney, anyway, Meredith talking
Mm-mm.
about her business. Can we get to, and I cannot wait to watch it again because I was watching it on my phone. Because I was out and about. I'm going to be watching it on the TV. My favorite part of the night, they get to the restaurant How does the argument even kick off again?
It's like this is the magic of the women. It's like it starts with one thing, and then
Yeah.
you're right. Like Angie does come in, and all of a sudden it becomes Lisa versus Angie, and Lisa says Angie's meddling, and then
Yes.
it's the two of them, and Lisa's like, I don't care that you're friends with Whitney. I care that you went to Whitney with the stuff that I was talking about, which I do kind of understand. I
Yeah, I
do
get,
understand there is a difference and there is a
yes.
nuance of like, I don't care that you're friends with her, but I thought that your loyalty was to me because I think in any relationship, you know the friends that you can like really talk shit with and the ones
Yes.
that you kind of have to like curb what you're going to say.
Yes.
And I think that Lisa thought that Angie was somebody she could truly like 100% vent to, but now she's realizing like number one, again, you're a housewife showing up to do your job, but number
Yeah.
two, it's like, oh, so like not only are you friends with Whitney, but now your loyalty is kind of in the middle here where you might not hold things to the chest that I'm telling you in
Right.
confidence.
Even if you were trying to make it better, who says I need you to make it better? I'm allowed to have a place to vent too.
Yeah.
I could kind of see, yeah, I could see that too. It's like it might not even be your job to make it better, considering, oh, I'm about to give Lisa something. Oh my gosh. But she has known Angie for quite a long time versus Angie
Mhm.
and Whitney just kind of.
Mhm.
So I can understand that too. It was funny though, Lisa interjecting, saying like trying to speak up for Meredith, like you're making it into something. Whitney telling her not to talk basically, and her being like I said, like it was
Mhm.
very much giving like almost old school arguments. Like I'm not trying to project this image of how I am. Like they were really like, oh, we're getting an authentic scene
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, I felt like it was very genuine. And I did. Again, it's like back to those original teams. We've like wiped the slate
Yes.
clean, and now we've got Lisa and Meredith versus Heather and Whitney. And I liked that. And then you have Angie throwing herself in the mix. And I felt like this is the magic of Lisa Barlow is like, I thought she was doing quite well in the argument, but she always fumbles.
Yeah.
She always almost gets it and then she fumbles because then when she brings up Angie's daughter,
Oh.
Angie played this brilliantly. The fact that she like stopped and played the like I'm gonna sit back down and drink my drink card. Like it
Yes,
was
I noticed that too.
perfect.
It was a moment, and it's she made her picking it up and drinking an actual moment, and no one was talking.
And she played it perfectly because had she just kept yelling, it would have been missed. But she almost let what Lisa said sink in of like she did the like I'm not mad, I'm hurt type of
Yes.
energy where she could have yelled back, but instead she was like, are you guys all, you're listening? Do you realize what she just said? 1 second. Like she really made everybody at the table have to sit there and like hear what Lisa just said.
Yes. And even though, because there's a big difference, people get like to get into the nuances and the weeds of, I'm not talking about your child, which you weren't talking about Electra, but you were using her as an example. And let's not do that.
Right. There was no need for that to be an argument. And I'm
No.
sorry. You're a mother, Taria. I'm a mother. Why have kids if you can't use them for an excuse?
It, oh, I gotta go. Oh, girl, Corey's calling. Oh, girl, Sky wants to talk to me about her thing.
Oh
I'll
no, I
call you
gotta
back.
run to the school and bring so and so her lunch. Like it's just, it's like, why have kids if you can't? They're the best excuse. They're a built-in excuse.
Yes. And you don't even have to go always the sick route. It's like, no, they need my attention.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta go. Peace. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes I miss having little ones for that. It's like, oh, yeah, we left the kids home. We gotta go. Now people would probably look at us like we're crazy. No, I did leave my 22 and 20-year-old and
I don't know what
27-year-old home.
I gotta get back. I don't know what he's doing
I
here.
don't know what they're getting into. But when she said that, it was like, it also lets you know, oh, you've been thinking about that. Like, oh, you felt this way
Uh-huh.
a minute about me.
Yeah. It's like the hot mic moment with her and Meredith, where I think there are
Yes.
those glimpses of the real Lisa. And whenever that mask slips just long enough for it to come out, that's always when she doubles down and spirals even more because it's like the facade that she thinks she's presenting is like that lid is on so tight that when we get a glimpse of who she really is, she has to like then
Yes.
double down in her image. Like I'm sure we're going to get 3 Wendy's drive-throughs and a Vita tequila scene next episode to make up for the fact that she showed her true self this episode.
And who she really is. Yeah, because it's like, and then she starts the yelling, and I felt like Nene, because she did it the first episode. She's doing it. You better watch those B words.
Taria, speaking of Nene, did you see the tweet? Do you know the one I'm talking about?
No.
Someone tweeted, I'm glad we all collectively decided that Heather Gay is the new Nene. The new what now?
Guy, the show is over. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Who? Heather Gay?
She was like, who is we? Who is we?
Who is this we you speak of?
Between that and people comparing Craig and Paige to Adam Brody and Leighton Meester, I'm sorry. We need to maybe just take a good, long, hard look in the mirror.
Touch and smell grass. Both. We need some grounding to happen, to go outside and ground.
Take off your shoes, put your feet, make sure those toes touch the soil.
Because, excuse me?
When I read that, I wanted to just throw my phone into the ocean.
It's like, well, now I can't trust any of your opinions. The new Nene, and here comes Heather in season 8 thinking she is,
because with a little page boy wig.
She's gonna think she is. What?
I couldn't.
There is no world ever.
No, there's no comparison. And I'm not even just saying that because there's no comparison to anyone in Nene. But I also just mean like there's literally no character traits that are in the center of that Venn diagram between Heather Gay and Nene.
Oh, I need you to do a meme. I need you to post the tweet into a meme.
Just 2 circles that aren't touching at all. The Venn diagram of Heather Gay and Nene.
Because maybe their height, if that, like.
Maybe they're veneers. Maybe they were talking about the veneers.
That's it. Because there's no that person did that to get engagement. That's what I have to believe that. I have to believe you did this because you knew people were going to be so upset that they had to speak up. Are you? I need you to send it to me. I'm not going to respond, though, because I'm not going to give them the engagement they want.
Oh, I did. I already gave it the engagement they wanted because I couldn't bite my tongue, but I'll send it to you.
Please send it to me because delete this immediately. Like, I'm offended and Nene doesn't even know me. My new podcast partner. I said that if I had to pick a housewife, have a podcast, it would be Nene. So I'm well, maybe not a podcast, maybe a limited series.
I would tune in.
T&E. I don't know, something like that. No, it's late in it. For some reason, when Kim and Nene were arguing seasons ago and Nene was on Watch What Happens Live and Kim called in and she was trying to talk and Nene goes, "It's late in Atlanta. Go to sleep." I just love that. It's late in Atlanta. That would be the name of our podcast. It's late in Atlanta because it's late in Atlanta. Go to sleep. Next caller or next caller. That would be
both of them. All of the above.
Was spelled N-E-X-S or N-E-C-K-S because it certainly wasn't next caller that she said.
That would be a great late night. Like if you had a late night program.
Next caller.
Get Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon out of here. And then next caller with Taria. Ask, believe, receive. And so it is.
And so it ask, believe, receive. And so it is. You're going to be a guest, of course. Or you could be, you know how
I can be whatever guy's like on the stool next to you. That's like, you know, like the little sidekick that they'll cut to, like when the audience isn't responding or you don't have a guest, you're like, what do you think about that, Chelsea?
And you're going to market sunglasses and we'll get you special, like a deal with like, Warby Parker.
We'll go to Alibaba. I heard that they've got a great discount.
No, we want to specifically the Chelsea line. Oh, No Chels line, you know, and it could be whatever, you know, hot mess, strategic, you know, any of those like that would be really cute because of your disguise, you know, your glasses.
Yeah. see. All
Y'all
right.
see how this is real female empowerment. Okay. This is what
We
it is.
support other women,
Women. I
unlike
support,
Bethany.
you don't support other women. As the dog is like trying to get around
So
Ramona's
the
leg.
dog's gonna be hit by a taxi. Poor
You're
Coco,
gonna make me go back and
R.I.P.
watch that scene. Coco's not with us.
Coco was like 100 years old,
That's
Tria.
true.
Coco is with us. We need to do some scientific studies.
But yeah, I guess Lisa's dogs did eventually go to the dog heaven in the sky, but I felt like hers were with us for a long time too.
Yeah, but Jiggy also, she just keeps getting dogs with
New Jiggy.
alopecia. Yeah, Jiggy 2.0, Jiggy 2.3. I mean, also, whatever she's doing with the Jiggies is also working on Ken because that man is an animated corpse at this
And
point.
still here with us.
She pushes that button and he comes in to be like, I can't believe Tom Sandoval. Can you believe it? And then just like goes out and takes
Shuffles
his
out, right? Shuffle ball here. I saw an
powers down
article.
like a Chuck E. Cheese animatronic character until he's needed for the next scene.
Well, I saw an episode article. I didn't read it because I didn't know if it was clickbait or not, but something about Lisa saying what would take her to come back to Beverly Hills or something. And I'm like, are we still like at this point, are we still talking about this? We haven't even got into this next season, so
Yeah. And
whatever.
I was an LVP stan for
I
a long
loved
time.
her.
I
Loved
loved
her.
her, but I think that time has passed.
Yeah, because even when I wanted her to come back, now it's like it's not even not that it has to be the same group of women, but there wouldn't really even be a connection. I know she's friends with Garcelle, but Kyle would kind of be the only one. She never really had a connection with the other ladies that's on the show now. And I just think it's too,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's too
think the
far gone.
only way, and I can't believe I'm saying this because you know how I feel about Doogie Richards, but I think the only way I would have her back is if her and Kyle made up and we could get that old school dynamic duo
Yeah,
where they were kind of tag teaming and ganging up on people. Like I wouldn't
that would
mind
be good.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, them being terrors in Beverly Hills,
Hmm.
because then that would force the other alliances to shift. Like, oh,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Oh, that would be really good. Oh yeah. Okay. I will consider that. Bravo. If you're listening, we know you're listening. Are you listening? But speaking of the tag team, so Whitney and well, I can't even say Whitney and Angie tag team because Angie made it about her. And
Hmm.
Lisa says she doesn't care what Angie does. I was like, is she real? Once again, the mask was slipping. Um, and they end up, did they fade into the night or did they end up going to the drag show after that?
Well, then we got Britney versus
Oh,
Bronwyn when
that's
Britney
oh,
tries
that's
to come
thank
for
you. Oh, come
Bronwyn.
on. That made that oh that excited me.
It was like
I was
it was
like,
like the new girl showdown. It was like they had finally gotten their first time in the ring to like see how it was going to play out. Who did you
yes.
think came out on top of that one?
Oh, that was I kind of feel like Bronwyn was eating her with the answers. Like, okay, next, next.
Hmm. And
I,
she even got Whitney on her side a little bit of being
yes.
like, I know what you're trying to do here. But it was weird. It was a weird choice for Britney because it would have been one thing if Bronwyn hadn't been talking about all of this. But Bronwyn had been making self-deprecating my husband is old jokes all
Yes.
along. So she was exactly right. It wasn't anything new. It was just kind of regurgitating these tired old stereotypes. And this is when I did get excited about Bronwyn. I've been on the fence and I'm still kind of not quite sure, but I got excited by that energy she brought because again,
Yes.
it reminded me a little bit of Crystal, a little bit of Heather Dubrow, just that energy of like, I'm unshakable and I know who I am and I know what my marriage is about. So like anything you throw at me, I'm just going to say like, what else do you want to know? And I loved when she opened it up to the table of like, does anybody else have any questions about my husband's dick or our sex life? Like it
Yes.
was kind of like it really was a way of being like, Brittany, like I think actually you want everything I have, so why don't you settle down over there?
When she let me tell you, because when Brittany was like, "Are you with him for money?" and the way she just kept it was just like boom,
Mhm.
no hesitation, boom, boom. And like you said, anything else, it was a Potomac moment. Do you have something? Do you have something? You have something? When Candace went around the table,
Uh-huh.
it's like, anybody got anything? And the ladies were just kind of like, even for you to get the OGs interested in your newbie argument, because
Uh-huh.
Bronwyn was, yeah, that scene. Thank you for
And
bringing that
then
up
for
because
her, and then for her to follow it up with a hot dog costume, I was like, okay, Bronwyn,
now
I'm interested. Color me intrigued.
when Mary said the heart coat was couture, this is a costume. And I think when Bronwyn watches that back, she's gonna laugh because I feel like Mary and her just seem to have like a kind of understanding about that. I was, oh man, I was living for Bronwyn in that moment, like because there's not Britney couldn't even. It was like you're not even the cool girl if you want it to be in that moment,
Right.
especially after coming off of you've announced you broken up.
Yeah, because we couldn't have a group scene without a relationship status update. She should just like project her Facebook onto some sort of monitor so we can just see like in a
Here
relationship,
we
it's
are.
complicated. Like, by the way, there's been a change in status, but also it just there's nothing I dislike more than a housewife who isn't good at arguing. It's why, and now see, I'm a hypocrite because I'm about to do what I said I'd never do. It's why like I can't really ever fully get behind Teresa because like
Yes.
I'm like you're not even connecting the dots to make the argument you think you're making. Like it
Yes.
frustrates me. So when Brittany approached it by being like, and let's talk about your relationship.
Worry about your marriage. It's like,
What's your husband's name again? It's like that's not a flex because that like that just shows A, you're a bad friend, and B, you have nothing of substance that you're actually accusing her of because you are
right.
saying you don't know her husband's name.
And you couldn't even create doubt if you wanted to, because if she had been like, girl, you better worry about what you and Todd doing running around Utah, like, or something, it would have been like, no,
Right.
wait a minute. Like maybe in the back of her mind. But you don't even, like you said, you don't even know his name. Worry about your marriage. I love when Bronwyn was basically like, there's nothing, like she didn't let it rattle her. There's nothing to even like worry about.
Yeah.
And then when she said, did you marry him for his money? And she talked about Google it, just like,
Yeah.
and they were out to lunch and he made me laugh. And but anything else? And
Yeah.
and Brittany just had to sit there looking stupid.
Right,
Like
because
it
what
was
else can you say when somebody's already owning all of the things? And then it almost like you're telling on yourself because this other person is owning all the things you thought were insults, but they're just like, here's the reality of what
yes,
it is I'm living.
yes. And again, putting it up against you making an announcement about a breakup, and then the producer asking you, does he know? So now you've made two announcements. So what we know now is that you have a very strange relationship to the truth when it comes to your relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're saying one thing, but it's the next. And he came out with a post last week basically saying that she's kind of like unhinged, and that the reason the best friend thing keeps, I was trying to see if I still had it. The reason the best friend thing, the friend thing keeps coming up is because first he said she got on the show because of him. He was her storyline. So you're kind of like, I mean, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But then he made it very clear. He said, basically she made it like he was trying to be her boyfriend, trying to be there, but she basically was insecure about the relationship. And so he kept making best friend references because it was like a kind of nod and wink between them, only for her to turn around on camera and
Oh.
then be a victim.
Yeah, I saw that and I mean
But
him sliding into like Bravo accounts DMs is messy and I'm like,
that's
and so I'm
whether you're
holding
telling the truth or not. Sorry, but like, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, but I think that you know how I am. I just historically hate men until they give me a reason to not hate them and then I'm like, okay, you're one of the good ones. That's fine. So I'm gonna wait and see like what it because I think that we in the previews we get a scene with them next episode. And so I'm interested to see what that dynamic looks like because I don't necessarily think she is the most hinged person in the
Yeah.
world, but I also am like, well, I think it takes two to tango and it doesn't seem like you're not toxic.
Yes. Again, DMing, it's like, okay,
Hmm.
all of that or what have you. Her in the confessional, I don't know why I keep picking these same type men. It's like, girl, because to me at that point when you realize it, I have no more sense. Like, do better. It's not like you are blind to the fact that you are.
Once you have that aha moment of a pattern, it's like, okay, so betterhelp.com, something.
Something. And on that note, Chelsea, thank you so much for coming and hanging out and talking Salt Lake City. I can't wait for you to come back and talk Potomac. I need you to go immediately to it. Again, I don't want to make it seem like I think the episode was just so great. It was just different than what we've had for the past couple of years or what have you. But please let everybody know where they can find you if they already don't follow, subscribe, all that stuff.
Yeah, so thank you for having me on. This was so much fun. I love chatting with you. So if you want to listen to more of me, my podcast is called I Am the Cute One. We put out episodes on Mondays and Fridays. Mondays are our old movie recaps that are recaps, but really just an excuse for us to talk about ourselves. And then Fridays are our TGIF pop culture roundup. So go over there, subscribe, like all the things. And we're on YouTube now. And we're trying to grow over there. So if you're watching this on YouTube, go over to I Am the Cute One podcast and take a gander, see if you like what you see. And yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at No Chels. If you are new to me, I always say, just mute my stories and then peruse as you like, check out my highlights. And then like a bad pop song, I will weasel my way into your brain and your heart, but give it some time. It is a lot. I acknowledge. I want to take accountability. It is a lot.
It's a lot. I'm a lot. But I don't care what you do. Yeah. You're missing the point. I don't care what you do. As I wave my hand around with my $1 million ring so I can lose it again and then say it's not insurance scam. All jokes. No, she found it. She said she found it. So we're glad that you found your ring, Lisa. Get it sized correctly. Anyway, guys, I will make sure that all of Chelsea's information is in the episode description box for the podcast and also on the YouTube video. I'll tag you in the I Am the Cute One in the YouTube video or whatever. Donnie, the tag is for Chelsea this week, okay? Like, what? Guys, thank you so much again. I hope you enjoyed the recap. Chelsea will be back for Potomac. And until we talk to y'all again, see you later.